YAH. Please fill me with the Ruach HaKodesh, that I may speak your written words with boldness to those who listen. I ask all these things in Yeshua HaMashiach's name. Amen. We'll start with the Shema, listen and obey. Children of Yah, pay careful attention and respond. Yahweh is our power and authority. Yahweh works in unity with himself. And you shall act upon your love to Yahweh, your power and authority, with your thoughts in mind, with your entire body, and with all the muchness that you have. Genesis 10, verse 1, chapters 11 through 15. Here is the genealogy of the sons of Noach: Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Sons were born to them after the flood. Chapter 11 through 15. The whole earth used the same language, the same words. It came about that they traveled from the east. They found a plain land in the Shinar and lived there. They said to one another, "Come, let's make bricks, bake them in a fire." So they had bricks for building stone and clay for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let's build ourselves a city with a tower that has its top reaching up into heaven, so that we can make a name for ourselves and not be scattered all over the earth." Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. Adonai said, "Look, the people are united. They all have a single language. And see what they're starting to do? At this rate, nothing they set out to accomplish will be impossible for them. Come, let's go down and confuse their language, so that they won't understand each other's speech." So from there, Yahweh scattered them all over the earth, and they stopped building the city. For this reason, it is called Baval, confusion, because there Yahweh confused the language of the whole earth. And from there, Yahweh scattered them all over the earth. Here is the genealogy of Shem. Shem was 100 years old when he fathered Arpachshad, two years after the flood. After Arpachshad was born, Shem lived another 500 years and had sons and daughters. Arpachshad lived 35 years and fathered Shelech. After Shelech was born, Arpachshad lived another 403 years and had sons and daughters. Shelech lived 30 years and fathered Ever. And after Ever was born, Shelech lived 403 years and had sons and daughters. Ever lived 34 years and fathered Peleg. After Peleg was born, Ever lived 430 years and had sons and daughters. Peleg lived 30 years and fathered Reu. After Reu was born, Peleg lived another 209 years and had sons and daughters. Reu lived 32 years and fathered Shrug. After Shrug was born, Reu lived another 207 years and had sons and daughters. Serug lived 30 years and fathered Nachor. After Nachor was born, Shrug lived 200 years and had sons and daughters. Nachor lived 29 years and fathered Terach. After Terach was born, Nachor lived another 119 years and had sons and daughters. Terach lived 70 years and fathered Avram, Nachor, and Haran. Here is the genealogy of Tanach. Tanach fathered Avram, Nachor, and Haran fathered Lot. Haran died before his father Terach in the land where they were born, in Ur of Kasdim. Then Abram and Nachor took wives for themselves. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nachor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran. He was the father of Milcah and Yescah. Sarai was barren. She had no child. Terach took his son Abram, his son Haran's son Lot, and Sarai his brother-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they left Ur in the Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they stayed there. Terach lived 205 years, and he died in Haran. Now YAH said to Abram, Get yourself out of your country, away from your kinsmen, and away from your father's house, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you are to be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse anyone who curses you, and by you all the families of the earth will be blessed. So Abram went, as YAH had said to him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai, his brother's son Lot, and all their possessions which they had accumulated, as well as the people they acquired in Haran. Then they set out for the land of Canaan and entered the land of Canaan. Abram passed through the land of the place called Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. The Canaani were there in the land. YAH appeared to Abram and said, To your descendants, Israchah, to your seed, I will give this land. So he built an altar there to YAH, who had appeared to him. He left that place, went to the hill east of Beit El, and pitched his tent. With Beit El to the west and Ai to the east, he built an altar there and called on the name of YAH. Then Abram traveled on, continuing toward the Negev. But there was a famine in the land. So Abram went down into Egypt to stay there, because the famine in the land was severe. When he came close to Egypt and was about to enter, he said to Sarai, his wife, Here now I know that you are a good-looking woman, so that when the Egyptians see you, they will say, This is his wife, and kill me, but keep you alive. Please say that you are my sister, so that it will go well with me for your sake, so that I will stay alive because of you. When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians did notice that the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's princes saw her and commended her to Pharaoh. So the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. He treated Abram well for her sake, giving him sheep, cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female slaves, and camels. But YAH inflicted great plagues on Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai, Abram's wife. Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that you have done to me? Why didn't you tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, She is my sister? So I took her to be my wife. Now, therefore, here is your wife. Take her and go away. So Pharaoh gave orders concerning him to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had. Abram went up from Egypt, he, his wife, and everything he had, and Lot with him into the Negev. Abram became wealthy with much cattle, silver, and gold. As he went on his travels from the Negev, he came to Beit El, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Beit El and Ai, where he had first built the altar. And there Abram called on the name of YAH. Lot, who was traveling with Abram, also had flocks, herds, and tents. But the land could not support their living together, because their possessions were too great for them to remain together. Moreover, quarreling arose between Abram's and Lot's herdsmen. The Canaani and the Perizi were living in the land. Abram said to Lot, Please, let's not have quarreling between me and you, or between my herdsmen and yours, since we're kinsmen. Isn't the whole land there in front of you? Please, separate yourself from me. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left. Lot looked up and saw that the whole plain of the Jordan, was well watered everywhere, before YAH destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of YAH, like the land of Egypt in the direction of Zoar. So Lot chose all the plain of the Jordan for himself, and Lot traveled eastward. Thus they separated themselves from each other. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, and Lot lived in the cities of the plain, setting up his tent near Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were evil, committing great sins against Yahweh. Yahweh said to Abraham, after Lot has moved away from him, look all around you from where you are, to the north, to the south, to the east, and to the west. All the land you see, I will give you and your descendants, ul zerachal, and to your seed forever. And I will make your descendants as numerous as the specks of dust on the earth, so that if a person can count the specks of dust on the earth, then your descendants can be counted. Get up and walk through the length and breadth of the land, because I will give it to you. Abram moved his tent and came to live in the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron. There he built an altar to Yahweh. When Amraphel, the king of Shinar, Arachah, king of Elasar, Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim, they made war together against Bera, king of Sodom, and against Bersha, king of Amorah, Shaniv, king of Admah, Shemever, king of Zeboim, and king of Bela, which is the same as Zoar. All the latter kings joined forces in the Siddim Valley, where the Dead Sea is. They had served Kedorlaomer 12 years, but in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Kedorlaomer, the king and the kings with him, came and defeated Rephaim and Ashtaroth, Canarayim and Zuzim and Ham, the Emim in Shavah, Katarim, and in Hori at Seir, their mountain, all the way to Paran by the desert. Next they turned back, came to En Mishpat, whereas in the same of Kadesh, and defeated all the country in the Amaleki, and also the Emori, who lived in the Hatzon Tamor. Then the kings of Sodom, Amorah, Admah, Zeboim, and Bela, that is Zoar, came out and arrayed themselves for battle in the Siddim Valley against Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goyim, Amraphel, king of Admah, Orich, king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the Siddim Valley was full of clay pits, and when the king of Sodom and Amorah fled, some fell into them, while the rest fell into the hills. The victors took all the possessions of Sodom and Amorah and all their food supply. Then they left. But as they left, they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. Someone who had escaped and told Abram, the Hebrew, who was living by the oaks of Mamre, the Emori, brother of Eshcol, the brother of Aner, and all of them allies of Abram. When Abram heard that his nephew had been taken captive, he led out his trained men who had been born in his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. During the night, he and his servants divided his forces against them, then attacked and pursued them all the way to Havah, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his nephew Lot with his goods, together with the women and the other people. After his return from slaughtering Kedorlaomer and the kings with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the Shavah Valley, also known as the King's Valley. Melchizedek, king of Shalom, brought out bread and wine. He was Kohen of El Elyon, God Most High. So he blessed him with these words: Blessed be Abraham by El Elyon, maker of heaven and earth, and blessed be El Elyon, who handed your enemies over to you. Abram gave him 1/10 of everything. The king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the people and keep the goods for yourselves. But Abram answered the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand in an oath to Yahweh El Elyon, maker of heaven and earth, that I will not take so much as a thread or a sandal thong of anything that is yours, so that you won't be able to say, I made Abram rich. I will take only what my troops have eaten, and the share of the spoil belonging to the men who came with me, Anir, Eshcol, and Mimri. Let them have their share. Sometime later, the word of Yahweh came to Abram in a vision. Don't be afraid, Abram. I am your protector. Your reward will be very great. Abram replied, Yahweh, God, what good will your gifts be to me if I continue childless, and Eliezer from Damascus inherits my possessions? You haven't given me a child. Abram continued, So someone born in my house will be my heir. But the word of Yahweh came to him, This man will not be your heir. No, your heir will be a child from your own body. Then he brought him outside and said, Look up to the sky and count the stars, if you can count them. Your descendants will be that many. He believed in Yahweh, and he credited it to him as righteousness. Then he said to him, I am Yahweh who brought you out from your custom to give you this land as your possession. He replied, Yahweh, God, how am I to know that I will possess it? He answered him, Bring me a 3-year-old cow, 3-year-old female goat, 3-year-old ram, a dove, and a young pigeon. He brought him all these, cut the animals in two, and placed the pieces opposite each other. But he didn't cut the birds in half. Birds of prey swooped down the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. As the sun was about to set, a deep sleep fell on Abram. Horror and great darkness came over him. Yahweh said to Abram, Know this for certain. Your descendants will be foreigners in a land that is not theirs. They will be slaves and held in oppression there for 400 years. But I will also judge that nation, the one who makes them slaves. Afterwards they will leave with many possessions. As for you, you will join your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. Only in the 4th generation will your descendants come back here, because only then will the emery be ripe for punishment. After the sun had set and there was a thick darkness, a smoking firepot and flaming torch appeared, which passed between these animal parts. That day Yahweh made a covenant with Abram. I have given this land to your descendants, from the valley of Egypt to the great river, to the Euphrates River, the territory of the Keni, the Kinzi, and the Kadani, the Hitti, and the Perizi, and the Rephaim, the Emori, the Kanani, the Gagashi, and the Uvishi. End with the Aaronic blessing. Yahweh will kneel before you presenting gifts, and he will guard you with a hedge of protection. Yahweh will illuminate the wholeness of his being toward you, bringing order, and he will provide you with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahweh will lift up the wholeness of his being and look upon you, and will set in place all you need to be whole and complete. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.